Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Bianca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a book called The Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. So this is the first book in her new series, the Last Hours series, and it was just recently released. I was really excited to read this book because The Infernal Devices is my favourite Shadowhunters series, and this book is set in the same sort of time. That's why I really wanted to pick it up. You know what I didn't know as well? I only saw this like 100 pages in, but it's got these beautiful illustrations and artwork there at the front. And I'm like, it's so pretty. I think it's because it is one of the collector's first editions of the book. So that's why. But I think everything about this book is beautiful. I really love the design. It was a fairly chunky book, so it did take me around 3 days to actually read it and to get through it. I'm just going to start by saying that I'm not one of those people who knows absolutely everything about the Shadowhunters world. I don't study the timelines. Like, I read the books, but I really don't know that much. Sorry if I get any of these places or any of these names wrong, or even any of the details. Like I said, I have said in my previous video that sometimes when I read YA books I get sort of confused. If there are too many characters and too much stuff going on, I just can't keep up. So I came back from reading the last Shadowhunters series quite disappointed. So I was really looking for a pick-me-up, and I think this book is the book. There are spoilers up ahead, so any of you who haven't read this book, I would click out of this video right now. I hate being spoiled, and I hate for you to be spoiled too. So this book series follows Will Herondale's children and their generation of Shadowhunters. So some of the main characters are James and Lucy Herondale. That's Will Herondale's and Tessa Herondale's children. And then we also follow Cordelia Carstairs and Alistair Carstairs, who are both brother and sister as well. And then we've got this whole crew of boys that James is the leader of. Basically, it has Matthew, Thomas, Christopher, and I'm missing something. So Cordelia and Alistair Carstairs have come to London because their father is under trial for sabotaging the peace treaty with the Downworlders. And this is when Cordelia and Alistair meet up with the Herondale family, and it's revealed that Cordelia is to be I'm going to say this wrong. Parvati is going to be Lucy. Then we're also told that Cordelia has had a crush on James because they've been family friends since they were little, and James is in love with someone, and we end up finding out that he's in love with a girl named Grace Blackthorn. Right from the beginning, I didn't like Grace, I didn't trust Grace, and later in the book there's a reason why. And it's just, she's so cold and she's so manipulative, and I just did not like her. And especially when there was a bit where they were at the lake, and then Cordelia was talking to James about something, and then Grace rocks up, and then Grace talks to him, and then Grace asks him to kiss her in front of absolutely everyone. And within this society, that's not exactly polite behaviour, but she wanted him to do it because she was jealous of Cordelia. And I don't like her, I just don't. Confirming my suspicion of Grace is a scene between Cordelia and Lucy when they're talking about her. And Lucy says, then it seems that somehow he fell in love with her. Which is very odd, really. I've always thought of pity as the opposite of love. And then straight away I knew it was the bracelet, because the bracelet is really significant between James and Grace. And I knew that bracelet was doing something to James, I just didn't know what. Then Grace does something else to piss me off, once again. So she asks James to run away and to marry her, and then they'll get their marks stripped and they'll leave the Shadowhunter world behind. And when James is confronted with that, he's torn because he cares for her, but then he doesn't want to leave all his friends and his family behind. and I felt really sorry for him, but I was so glad when he refused her. I was so glad. And she did that to test him. That's what sort of character Grace is. There are attacks happening in London right now by demons, and some of these attacks are happening during the day, and they shouldn't happen because demons can't come out in the sunlight during the day. So this is a real worry for the Shadowhunters, especially since they haven't had a lot of demon attacks in such a long time. They end up finding out that the Shadowhunters who were attacked by demons can actually transmit that to other people. So all they need to do is to scratch them or claw them, and then they make other Shadowhunters sick, like a virus. I actually quarantined these Shadowhunters in the Silent City, I think, in London, where all the Silent Brothers are. And it's very fitting considering what's happening in the world right now with the coronavirus and the craze that's going on, and it just reminded me of the present day. Anyway, this gang of Shadowhunter boys, with James as the leader, as well as Cordelia and Lucy, they go out and they try and find out why these attacks are happening in the first place, and they get into trouble like usual. They find out that they need a device to trap one of the demons, and they go over to, I think, a warlock called Hypatia Vex, and they try and steal her device to trap a demon. And in this moment, Cordelia does this dance. I really don't know how to feel about this dance. I think that, yeah, I wasn't that impressed by the dancing scene. And I was even less impressed with the next scene, which was James and Cordelia go into the whispering room and he kisses her for the first time. The circumstances of how it happened really disappointed me. I hate it when it's been done so many times before, how characters have to pretend to be in a compromising position just for a certain situation, just so they don't get caught. And then Matthew ends up walking in and catching them, and Matthew's drunk once again. Cordelia tries to convince him, oh yeah, it was just a farce, but there is no fooling anyone, Cordelia. You were making out with him, like, no tomorrow, like... So then they end up getting the device, and then they go over to a bridge and they try and catch another demon, and then in the process Cordelia ends up getting thrown off the bridge, and I don't know whether she can swim, but they go after her, and Lucy goes after her, and then we find out that these ghosts have come and they've suddenly saved Cordelia, and it just doesn't seem that believable that ghosts are not physical beings except for Jesse, because he's got some sort of special circumstances, but they shouldn't have been able to carry Cordelia out of the water. I think it would have been much more believable if some of the boys dived in, they tried to save Cordelia and they nearly lost her or something like that. That reminds me of Jesse. I think his situation is really interesting. The fact that when he was younger he got a ruin mark. No, actually he was sickly, so then he got the ruin mark, and it made him really sick, and then he ended up dying. I like Jesse's character. He's probably one of the characters that I really do like, but I don't see how they can make him come alive once again in a believable sort of manner, now that the last breath has been given to James. So I don't know how that's going to work out. I think the real problem with me being bombarded with characters and not really keeping up with the characters is that if something happens to one of the minor characters, I don't really care as much or feel connected to them, because I really don't know who they're talking about. Like, I knew that Christopher was like the sort of mad scientist sort of type with like in the lab, but I didn't know that all that much about him. So when Christopher was attacked by a demon, I didn't really care that much. I'm sorry. James ends up meeting his grandfather, who's a demon, and his grandfather wants to use his body to exist in the human world. And James's body is sick right now because he's been infected with the demon virus thing, and the demon is threatening to use his sister as a host, and to kill all of his family and friends. So it's a really hard decision for James to come to. And then this leads to one of the major things that are within every single Shadowhunters series, and that's the martyr syndrome. That's when they will never think of themselves, they'll always choose their family and everything else first. And it's been done time and time again with like Clare and Tessa. I was a bit surprised when James didn't forfeit his body. I really thought that he would do it to save them. But that didn't end up happening, which was, yeah, it was really surprising. So Cordelia ends up coming and saving James, and then everything's all great once again. But then Grace is back, and you know how much I love Grace. And she brings that friggin' bracelet once again. Oh my god. Just like, leave James alone. Just leave him alone. And she puts the bracelet back on him. And now that James has a loyalty bracelet on, he ends up doing something for Grace. He ends up burning down the house at Idris when he was told to get rid of one of the demons that were actually in the house, or like a suit of armor. To cover for him, Cordelia stands up within a court full of other Shadowhunters and she says that, yeah, James was in my room all night, like we were just... If a lady of that time was caught with a man, she wouldn't really openly admit it like that because she would be ruined. I think that she would be looked down upon a lot, and that would have made it worse for her family situation with her father. And this comes to one of the biggest problems for me with this book, is the cliche moment where everyone thinks that James has ruined Cordelia, so he offers to marry her even though he doesn't love her. And I cannot tell you how many times this has been done in other historical romance books. It has been done so many times, and the fact that they've done this to one of the Shadowhunters books makes me really disappointed. I've found that I don't really have a good feel for the characters just yet either. I feel like Matthew is living too much in the young Will's shadow, and James is living too much in Jem's shadow, because James is obviously the nice guy. And Matthew's obviously a young man with a haunted past who has a problem with alcohol, and he's a bit of a rogue, like he's got a bit of a reputation. He goes to places where there's a lot of like scandalous downworlders, so they sort of reminded me of those characters from the last series. I think one of my favourite characters who did feel really believable was Anna's character. Anna has a very masculine manner to her. Anna has unconventional romantic relationships as well. And I know that there were people in that sort of time period who were like that. They were a bit of an oddity, but they did exist. So this actually felt really realistic and true to the world that they were in. And I'm actually excited to see more of Anna in the future. What I found really interesting as well was the fact that because Lucy and James have Tessa's blood, they do have demon blood within them too, so they do have special abilities. So this gives Lucy the ability to see ghosts, and that means she can see Jesse as well, who is a different type of ghost. And then it gives James the ability to step through different dimensions where demons are. And the first time that they called the dimension the Shadow Realm, I couldn't help but think of Yu-Gi-Oh! I was immediately reminded of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I watched those cartoons when I was growing up. And whenever they mention that name now, I can't help but like not take it seriously. I'm sorry, but I just can't. So what did I think of the book overall? There were problems with it, things that I wasn't too happy about, but then there were also things that I did like, and there were characters that I liked, and the storyline does have me wanting to know what's going to happen to these characters next. So overall, I did enjoy it. I liked it better than what I did like the last Shadowhunters series, but I don't think I liked it as much as the Infernal Devices. I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I did like it, like I did have problems with it, but I still think overall it was a really good book. If any of you have read Chain of Gold, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And if you're interested in more book related videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.